Hello, everybody, and welcome once again. And a little pat on the back for us. Quickly back to the Football Uncensored podcast. Within a week, almost a new record for John and I. Thank you very much for those who tuned in to our episode earlier in the week. We had some good comments and some good views on it. Thank you, much appreciated. Please keep sharing and subscribing and doing everything you can to widen the network for John and get the views up and the subscribers up, etc., etc. I'll stop now. John, how are you this evening, mate?
All right,
Had a
Rob.
good
Yeah,
day?
yeah, good. Yeah. A tough week, but it's to be expected this time of year. Nice to be here twice within a week. Um, yeah, just want to endorse what you said. Thank the loyal subscribers for tuning in. Please watch, like, share, subscribe, tell your mates, and keep hitting the subscribe button because we need to get it up to the magic gorilla, the 1,000 mark, if we can, sooner or later, or sooner rather than later, actually.
Definitely
Um,
sooner.
Yeah. I was watching different bits and pieces. We've done the thing on Eddie, the passing of Eddie McCready, who was
Mm.
manager the season I signed apprentice at Chelsea, and it's been a very eventful week this week. So yeah, lots to look forward to and talk about.
I'm going to apologise to you and nick one of your phrases that you use often, far far too often, sadly. But so an absolute western of a week for Crystal Palace, it seems. Knocked
Okay.
out of the cup, as we touched on last episode, by Macclesfield.
Yeah.
Looks like the captain's going to Man City, it seems,
Yeah.
although I believe it's TBC. And obviously, the manager, he's confirmed he's definitely going at the end of the season. And the
Yeah.
board have said, okay, you'll stay until the end of the season. We're not going to sack you. But despite your comments post the defeat against Sunderland at the weekend,
Yeah.
I mean, where do we start on that?
Yeah, well, you're talking about giving yourself a pat on the back. I've said on when it come through on the radio, 2-star nap for them to lose at Sunderland. I've been in that situation. I've been in that in and around that sort of camp when you're letting your best players go, as in the summer. Although I'm not sure what sort of dimension he has to Arsenal because the game is quicker and quicker, and maybe he's the latter day Paul Davis, where he plays the game at his own pace and he's hit some striking passes and a couple of good strikes from in and around the edge of the box. And then the latest one is the centre back, who I think might tip City over the edge and make them odds on favourite for the title next year. They've definitely come in to stabilise things. They've been struggling at the back. I've never been a great lover of the guy, Ake. And then you've got the kid with the Eastern Bloc name who they got plucked out of nowhere, or as far as I was concerned, nowhere. He's still struggling to find his feet, but he's getting stronger and more confident as the fixtures go on. Stone's coming to the end of his tenure. Um, yeah, so not a good week for Palace, as you say. What I found surprising, and I agree with a few, and you can follow me on Twitter at the Real Sits, which was my nickname in football, which sort of abbreviated version of my surname, Sitts. A few Palace supporters on there, Rob, saying they couldn't understand why he fielded a weakened side against Macclesfield, whether it was contempt for the opposition, whether he was over confident, whether it was a bit of arrogance. I don't know. I don't know whether it's down to injuries. I don't know if it's down to rest people trying to make a statement. The squad's been too small. We've been saying it most of the season, and he came out yesterday and you know, I found it refreshing, if I'm honest, because the flip side of it, I looked at the Simon Jordan Talksport interview with Jim White about his time. I watched the interview, two managers, Pulis and McCarthy, interviewing Ian Dowie. He said about his time with Ian Dowie and how he'd done everything in his power and blah, blah, blah. Um, with regards to how he supported managers, which I've absolutely no doubt whatsoever, which is exactly what he did. I was asked once upon a time who I would prefer as my chairman if I could pick the ideal chairman out of Barry and Simon Jordan and Ken Bates, and I'll pick Simon Jordan. I think you know where you stand with him. Um,
Did you really?
I did, yeah. It was on an interview many, many moons ago, 2015, actually, by the guy who was meant to help me write the book, and I ended up doing it myself with 4 pads of A4, as you know, and a biro.
Mm,
Um, yeah, and then got someone else to type it all out. But anyway, going back to the original thing, yeah, it's after yesterday. First of all, I said, right, with this news coming out, I've been in a camp where um, the squad is depleted anyway. You haven't got a strong enough squad. You can't rest players. You can't rotate players. You got above all else anything before anything else is considered. Competition for places. I actually had quite an intense, heated discussion with someone yesterday who was inside the club that I was at the time, Leighton Orient, much lower down, and he's going, people have been saying, well, how did we go down with him and him and him? And I said, well, because 9 players are not enough. We only had 15 outfield players anyway. It's well documented now. The PFA were paying the wages for 8 months, even when Barry Earn came in. He didn't sign it all over until all the ducks were in a row. The PFA continued to pay the wages. We couldn't negotiate in. We couldn't negotiate. We could only let players go. We couldn't sign anybody, not even anyone on loan, until we got well into the last fifth of the season, or the last quarter of the season. That was Paul Reed from Arsenal. So the moral of the story is, when you're working with a no budget and um, you've got no competition for places, it causes a problem. What I will say is they've balanced the books quite nicely, right? Because when I looked at the thing that people bought, people sold, it comes to more or less exactly the same amount of money. But it's like
mm,
I said in my book, a little knowledge is a dangerous thing, available on amazon.co.uk. Um, I heard all this when I was a player, and I heard it all at Chelsea, and I heard it all at Millwall, and I heard it in particular at Leighton Orient, and I heard it when I come in. It's no good balancing the books if you're fighting relegation, or if you end up like managers going through the like a revolving door, and you can't defend your title, as in this this time last weekend, the FA Cup, getting beat away at Macclesfield. And what I found, going back to the point about what I found refreshing, I found the manager's honesty refreshing, because he's similar to myself. Um, whether I needed a filter or not, with regards to what I was saying, is open to conjecture and opinion. But I thought his honesty was refreshing, and what it is. It's like he's tried to. It's like maybe an upside down version of trying to create a siege mentality, him and the players against the rest of the world, whereby I'm trying to protect the players. I can't keep placing these demands on my players. I'm trying to look after my players. Too much has been asked of my players, etc., etc., etc. And now I think they're playing hardball. He's done what Amorim done. He's done what Maresca's done. He's challenged. They talk about managing downwards and managing upwards as well as downwards. Well, uh, 2 out of those 3 ended up. It's only going to result um, in you parting company. It's only going to end one way when you call into question the people above you. And I think he was probably angling for maybe a settlement, less part by mutual agreement. Is a settlement, and then he's available for another job, ergo Man United or Spurs. Um, but now they're playing hardball, and they're saying, no, well, you're now going to let's see how good you are, and you're going to
mm.
stay until the end of the season, which is the flip side of the coin. Well, let's see if he can go all the way through the season with this too small a squad, because I know exactly where he's coming from. We probably had the best. This is what I said to the individual yesterday. Actually, it was like an intense, heated discussion. I said, "Well, a lot of that's to blame." And you're talking about someone who gave me cash because we never had money for players' boots, and he gave me cash to help and some sweat tops for the youth team because they never had anything to keep them warm on the touchline. And I'll put that with some other money I got from Holloway Sports, because he said, 'Cause if I pay it into the club's account, and this was from the Leyton Orient Sunday side. So you could be sarcastic and say, well, who was at the first team? Well, no, it was Leyton Orient Supporters Club Sunday side. And then what they gave us, he said, if we pay into the club accounts, it's just going to get eaten up by the debts. You were talking about a club that couldn't afford a tenner for a box of tea bags, a couple of pints of milk, and a bag of sugar, right? So I've been in that position. I find the thing refreshing and honest because it endorses what I said yesterday, which is 9 players is no good. I can go through them now. Best goalkeeper outside the top division, Paul Hild. Very good athlete, defender, footballer, and captain Ian Hendon. Darren Purse, who went on to be which I was questioned at the time. I said he'll probably be involved in a few £1 million moves, and he was. Gary Bellamy, a good pro. Kevin Austin, rest in peace. Fantastic person, player, and professional. Mark Dempsey, wide left. Glenn Cockrell, Ian Bogey. Gary Barnett put in a shift. Then you've got like Colin West. Um, After that, I'm struggling. So I could probably name 8 or 9 players, and you can't give the opposition, like, let's say Palace, you might be able to get through it in terms of like how you rest and replenish and refresh yourself and recuperate. But you might have 3 or 4 who are struggling to do 3 fixtures every 6, 7 days, right? And as a consequence, you've got, like we had, 7 carrying 4, and you can't have that. And then on top of that, you need to rest and rotate and have, like I say, competition for places. So yeah, but it don't surprise me the club's playing hardball. I think he was angling to try and get the tin tack and a settlement, if I'm honest, because he's had
Mm.
enough.
It, well, it certainly seems like he's had enough. He didn't mince his words in the press conferences, and yeah, I find it hard to disagree. And have the board called his bluff somewhat. We'll see how it goes in the next couple of weeks. Linking into that, a couple of clubs you mentioned in your talk there, Spurs as one. Let's face it, can't dress it up. Terrible result. Lost at home to West Ham. London derby.
Yeah,
Lost.
embarrassing,
Struggling
laughable.
for
Yeah,
form and morale. Lost.
yeah,
Manager under pressure.
yeah,
Lost. There's just so many negatives about Spurs at the moment, and
yeah.
losing at home to West Ham, who are also struggling. Yeah, I mean, Frank, to be fair, I think on an early episode this season for our podcast, I think I said the words, Frank, a good signing for Spurs, could be their best signing of the summer. Not working out brilliantly. Was I wrong? Were we wrong?
Well,
And
he started
he's
off
out of
all
his
right.
depth.
Yeah, I mean they've got a good nucleus of players. I'll probably give them a kiss of death. I like the centre back pairing. I think there's 3 top centre back pairings in the Premier League: Spurs, Liverpool, and Arsenal. The rest they're like licorice all sorts. Like I can take them or leave them. Um, but it's the people around them. I think the midfield is too similar. Like I've said, criticised West Ham, too similar in style, too lightweight. No protection for the centre backs. I don't think the full backs, either of the full backs, are good enough. I don't think the ones that come in are good enough. And I don't think they've got a massive high profile striker. And you're talking about a club who had probably the greatest creative midfield players in the game's history in Oddle and Gascoigne, and the 3 greatest goal scorers in the history of the British game: Jimmy Greaves, Clive Allen, in terms of their style. And I think one season, Clive, who I come up against as a kid and played with as a kid, um, and knew as a young professional, one of the greatest finishers in the game, just passed it in the corners. I think one year he got 40 odd goals. And Gary Lineker. Now, when I look
Not
at it,
forgetting Harry Kane.
the squad's unbalanced, too lightweight. Like I say, the midfield's too similar. Um, there's no one protecting the back 4. There's no one protecting predominantly the centre backs. If it's down to the manager, he knew what, like I did. you sort of know what you're getting into when you take the thing. People were saying he's out of his depth. Well, okay. So what about all the so-called world-class managers and ones near the top of the tree? Were they out of their depth as well? Was Mourinho out of his depth? World-class manager. Was Pochettino out of his depth? So-called world-class manager. The little Italian who was at Chelsea and won a double or won a championship then an FA, was he out of his depth?
Conte.
Um, yeah, I mean they've chewed up and spat out so many decent managers, and I still maintain what I've always said. If you go back through the hundreds of podcasts, and I'll be honest, when I compare it with other podcasts, I'm going to be little bit controversial here. I think we're on the ball. I answer lively. You ask the questions. You prepare the list of questions. I don't know what you're going to ask me, right? But I think we bounce off of each other all right, and we give out good, valid coaching points and good observations. Sometimes many weeks, or in this case, many months ahead of its time. Like when everyone jumped on the bandwagon last week about West Ham, I said it in August after watching them or the beginning of September after watching them for 4 or 5 games, because you either know what you're looking at or you don't. And I know what I'm looking at, right? So being a bit on the front foot and a bit aggressive about it, it seems to me that life, rather than be humble and letting people make their mind up, it seems to me to be about front and bravado and being a bit bolshy. So it's time to maybe have a bit of front and be a bit bolshy and then show a bit of bravado and and get a diploma from the University of Sheer Front, like other people have. Because I said it back in about West Ham back in September, then October, then November, then December, and again here we are, 5 months into the season, and all of a sudden, people, the other pundits, highly paid pundits, are just starting to catch up. Then when I compare us with other podcasts, I ain't being funny, right? Um, I said it right at the very start, and I've said it for a couple of seasons now. It's the culture at Spurs. It's this like easy Ozy, even under think like Mourinho, who was like a proven track record winner. Um, and then people throwing in little grenades. Oh, is he this flat track bully? Blah blah blah. No, it's about doing it his way. And you've got people sitting in team meetings in the lecture theatre, and you're going through tactics, and you're going through what had happened. And you've got someone sitting there with his arms folded, with a hood up, with dark glasses on. Where are we here? In the fucking lot said at the time. What are we doing here? Are we professional? Are we a professional football club, or are we in a rap video? What's going on here? Right?
Yeah.
You can't. So here's what I'm going to say. It's going to keep going on the same. It doesn't matter who the manager is until someone is allowed to come in like a Wenger or to culturally change it, although he was only catching up with doing what Malcolm Allison did 20 to 30 years previous and never got any recognition or praise for it with regards to how you live. Although he probably wasn't the greatest example of his players, it has to be said. But the way you rest and replenish, stretching programs, plyometrics, diet and nutrition, physiology and anatomy, etc., right? So it needs a cultural change like that, or it needs someone like Sir Alex Ferguson, who's given the run of the club and could take over, rule it with a rod of iron, right, and instill um, a totally different mentality. Right, and honestly, I look at some of the players. I think, well, you must have gotten from outside Bruce Grove Station, because they're just not up to it. They're not up to the task. And having a little like a decent 2 minutes every two games is not, it's unacceptable. It's not good enough. Nowhere near good enough. Um, and yeah, it gives West Ham a little glimmer of hope. Although Nottingham Forest, well, 7 or 8 points ahead of them, they've still got it all to do. I still think it's the bottom three, because I don't see how that's anything other than a positive. Arsenal getting a clean sheet, eating into one more fixture, and getting a point away from home at Nottingham Forest against a team with some excellent individuals who are a good side, coached by a proven, um, good, solid manager who's tactically astute and gets them well drilled. You know what I mean? I don't see anything other than pluses. Yeah. But Spurs, nah, no, no change. If you want to know what's going to come in months or years to come, if I'm still breathing, just tune in and subscribe to this podcast, because it's all coming out now what we've been predicting.
What you've been predicting. But to touch on the Arsenal, you've got a lot of, and I find personally on social media that all football fans are fickle. My club, Southampton, our fans are probably in the Premier League have been fickle. Arsenal fans, I find, are very much, and there's a lot of negativity that they've drawn 0-0 away to Forest. Should have won the game. Looking at the highlights of the match today, yeah, they probably
Yeah,
should have. Excuse my English, but given the results this afternoon, Sunday as we record, and Saturday yesterday,
yeah,
despite a perceived shit result by some Arsenal
yeah,
fans, they've
yeah.
extended their lead at the top of the table.
Well, look, have it right. Even from when I was a kid, even when I went there as a kid, and then even when I played against some youth team combination and first team, and then the aura or the stories that come out, like the stories now latter day. I know there's quite a lot. I know what's going on behind the scenes of Spurs. Don't worry about that. And the thing is about football. Um, it's not a very long grapevine. You know what I mean? And it don't take long for stories to come round. So there's plenty of stuff that's leaves a lot to be desired. Where Arsenal are concerned, sticking to that, they've always been an arrogant club. Um, I've always been brought up to be an Arsenal supporter. I'll be honest. I've always kept, even when I was a professional, always kept one eye on their results. My dad brought me up and took me onto the North Bank every home game from the age of about 6 or 7. I remember the first grainy black and white thing. I think Liverpool, the first match of the day was Liverpool v Arsenal. I remember Donnell getting a chasing when I saw the reruns of it. Went on to be one of their great coaches. Um, but after this year, I can't make a case for him. Now, the point I wanted to make is the entitlement of every supporter from Arsenal down to the club I was at Leighton Orient. We shouldn't have done. We should do this. We shouldn't have done that. Da, da, da. Well, look at them now. Look, like a budget of 8.5 million, which is a long way from not being able to pay the milk bill and the coach company, and the manager having to do 6 jobs and blah blah blah, all that bullshit that I've been over and over and over again. You know what I mean? It's a long way from there. Now the bottom line is there's a massive and a very acute sense of entitlement amongst many football supporters. You would think after I'm listening. Yeah, I've been going over there for 28 years. I've been going over there before. Well, you think by now you'd be a bit more educated then, wouldn't you? Because you're hammering the manager. You've got the pundit on there. What's his name? O'Hara. He's hammering it. I can't have him. Now I've been told he goes about his business around the ground and around the training ground. He's very inconspicuous. You don't really know he's floating about. So he's not loud. He's not thinking. Don't whoop, turn that in. Da, da, da. Come and see me. Let's have a chat. Let's go and do a little one-to-one. Da, da. He's not a very imposing figure, and I think that's maybe what it needs. But the bottom line is, they've spent nearly £1 billion in 5 years, which on an annual average is not a great deal. Probably it works out 180 million a year, which compared to other clubs, but under Levy, who's since departed, they've always looked to like balance the books and run it on a cost-effective basis. Um, and they've had some near misses trophy wise. They had the thing last year with Postecoglou, who was lucky to avoid relegation. So the bottom line is, I think Arsenal compared to Spurs. Although, like I said, I can't. After this year, I've supported him through the last 4, 5, 6 seasons. You've got your doubters, you've got your naysayers with regards to the manager of Mikel Arteta. You know what I mean? When I see the documentary, I thought you're dope to me when he aimed at Aubameyang. What he's got to do, he's got to come down on the players, but he's got to try and do it in a relaxed manner, so they don't see the pressure getting to him, which means the pressure will get to them. Little things like they criticised the centre forward yesterday. Well, if he's not getting any supply, right? So it's all very well with regards to your club saying like victory through harmony. But you've got to place demands on each other. I can't imagine for 1 minute Alan Shearer, maybe someone like Wright, suffering the overindulgence and the chopping back and the chopping back and the chopping back again, then the chopping back again, then rolling it back to the fullback of Saka when he's already done the fullback and beat him and whip it into the second 6 yard box there, what he used to call Wilkinson hotspot. Or whip it in behind a retreating back four so that he knows that he can make his run. But if there's no supply coming, I don't see how you can criticise the centre forward. Now they're going, oh, bring back the other geezer they got from Chelsea for 35 million, which I thought Chelsea were laughing down their sleeves at them to get the
And the
35.
restaurant, more than 35.
Yeah, wherever it was, I don't know. Listen, it's a good point. It's a good clean sheet. It eats into another fixture. And then as you sort of Dave Villa getting beat at home to Everton, right? It throws them off the scent a little bit. It keeps
Mm.
others at arm's length. The title's between Arsenal and City. Simple as that. I said it probably 2 weeks ago, the 2 weeks before that, the 2 weeks before that, and the 2 weeks before that, and the 2 weeks before that. Yeah. Um,
Indeed.
then it's out of Villa, Liverpool, maybe Man United, maybe Newcastle to make up the rest of the top four.
Okay. Well, good thoughts there. We've got, unfortunately, 5 minutes left for this recording. So there's a couple of things we were going to talk about. We're not going to fit them all in for this episode. You mentioned City as still the probable biggest challenges to Arsenal, even after the weekend results. Obviously, probably everyone knows that the Manchester Derby result. I've, I've sent you my thoughts on that game. I don't know if you've seen Match of the Day, hopefully. So 7 points is the gap City to Arsenal. Played the same amount of games. I thought United fully deserved the win and almost bullied City and, if you like, out-energized them. What were your thoughts on the game? Did anything to major to take from it?
Well, they interviewed Harry Redknapp on Talk Sport, and he said it ain't rocket science. And I've always said it ain't bionuclear physics. Um, and what they've done, they've in the week they've drilled them. He's thanked, praised them to high heaven, the backroom staff, as in Carrick. He's praised them to high heaven, the backroom staff, the coaching staff. They've basically they played a 4-4-2. They doubled up on the wingers, and then what they've done, they shuffled over and they packed that area. And if you look at it, there was a lot of crossfield balls. Well, if the ball's going, if it's crossfield, you should be able to get there and close it down because the ball's travelling a long way. B, it buys you time to shuffle across. C, if it's in front of you, they're not doing any damage. And I thought it was a very well deserved United victory. They played the game. When you say bullied, I just think they played the game at the tempo they should have been playing it at, because you had people who could put their foot on the ball, stop, start, and then explode, then whip a crossing. Like your Keens, your Skulls, your Beckhams, that era, your Cantonars. They could maybe do a pirouette and then play a little give and go, then knock it wide, then whip one in, and someone's on the end of it. Right? I think this Man United team, they've always had to play that way. Pleased for him that he came back, Maguire. It proves that when sometimes the manager's opinionated. Um, at that level, he should get it right more often than not. But it proves that at that level, probably on this occasion, an opinionated manager who fell out with one or two might have been barking up the wrong tree, and his opinions might not have been as gilt-edged as he thought. Um, yeah, it's just basically a high tempo performance, and they played the game at a great pace. And like you saw with a couple of disallowed and it in the woodwork and all that, it could have been 4 or 5. Well worth the win. What's good for me, what I like to see is the guy's been given a chance because he's a young English manager, young English coach, right? Um, Holland we know about from England. Again, it ain't bionuclear physics. It's common sense and it's getting the players to you give them a clear picture of what you want, what you think will suit them, and then work on it during the week, which it looked like they'd done, and then go out and ask the players to reproduce it. Um, I don't see anybody. This was the other thing that, with regard where I was concerned, being brought into question. Honestly and truly, do you honestly think Pep Guardiola or Arteta, or now in this case someone like Carrick or Holland, do you honestly think they give a Churchillian speech every 3 days? Because I don't. It's what I've always said. What you do, you give them a framework, and what you want to deal with good, proper human beings, proper people who are good, conscientious professionals, got pride in their performance, right? And you let them men manage themselves. I've always said it. It's not about man management. Men manage themselves, and I think what they've done, they've given them a framework, and they've gone out and basically um, carried it out to the nth degree. Where I thought, City was, a long way off the. They looked like they was off the pace, but I just think United played it at such a good tempo, and it was like an hunger and a desire. And it's like I said when I was at Orient. It's like waiting for trying to get rid of a nasty smell in your through lounge. You know what I mean? Once that thing, they go. What's good for what I like to see, the Chelsea boy, who I'm pretty sure I played against his dad. Um, and
Yeah, you would.
he's been rewarded for his good work from uh, the, the the related club or the sister club, and he's been brought back over. And Carrick, they're both young English coaches, and I think it's good that young English coaches, um, if the FA have got their act together and the FA diploma or the pro diploma is all it's cracked up to be, which it needs to be, because I think the UEFA is 13.5 grand to do that. If it's all it's cracked up to be, mind you, that's night out money for them, the era they played. But um, you know, if it's all it's cracked up to be, I think it's about time young English coaches, young English managers get their chance rather than foreign coaches come just jump on the gravy train with their agent mates and keep pillaging the British football economy.